Hey friends, welcome back to Joy Hub, the channel where we help leaders, teams, and couples journey into deeper joy. And welcome back to this series on communication. This is our third part. And if you haven't watched either of the first two, you can find them on the playlist at the end of this video. But today we're going to talk about waiting your turn. What do we mean by that? Waiting your turn.
Well, I'm a recovering interrupter, so I'll be the first one to admit that this is one that hits home for me. And so, one of the most important parts of being an active listener is not interrupting. And so, it's such a big part that we're going to spend a whole little session to talk about this idea of waiting your turn. And so, one of the things that you want to do in communication is listen to the other person without interrupting. And so it's listening to completely understand the message and not interrupt what the person is saying. And so it's a big problem that a lot of us that like to verbally kind of collaborate and get excitement in communications, we can be known as interrupters, and it really stops people short, and it cuts their message off when we're constantly interrupting. And there's a new term that I found when I was doing some studies on this, and it's the chronically impatient. We're used to everything being immediate. We don't like waiting for anything in life. Like, I know our kids have grown up in the world of Amazon, where you order something and it's on your doorstep. You can even DoorDash and have things delivered. We don't like to wait.
Yeah.
And sometimes that definitely comes across in our style of communication.
Yeah. So I work with a team, and many of you watching work within teams at some level. And with most teams, you're on a team, and you're especially in team meetings, oftentimes to collaborate, to share ideas, to refine ideas, to agree upon and get buy-in on particular action. But within those teams, there's usually great leaders, not just a leader, but great leaders and great people with great ideas. And the tendency can be to want to make sure your idea gets on the table. And so on our team, what we've done is we've created what we call our group identity. And it's part of that group identity is our communication commitments to each other. And one of those commitments is to not interrupt. We have several of them. And one of those, again, because we know everybody in the room has great thoughts and will share great responses when it's their turn. But our commitment to each other is to not interrupt, to the degree that if we break that commitment, we've all given each other to permission. We've given each other the permission to say, hey, we've stepped out of our group identity. Let's come back to that. Let's go back to Jonathan and let him finish his thought. And then we'll ask for, more collaboration on that.
And I think that's so important to set up those parameters, whether you're leading a small group or you're just leading, a friendship group. Like, let's let everybody, finish. Sometimes you just have to say that. And one of the things that I'm striving to do, and I don't always do it well, is to become a professional listener, because it's not in my nature to listen really well. And so I'm really trying to grow the skill of paying full attention when someone's speaking and not interrupting, and giving them the opportunity to fully communicate their idea or thought. And so, like, in those type group settings or group meetings, if there's something that I'm worried I'm going to forget, I'll write it down. And that kind of frees me up from interrupting sometimes. And then when there's a complete pause in the conversation, sometimes I will in my head even count to 5 before I say anything, just to make sure, because sometimes someone's just taking a breath and you're inserting your opinion or your thought, and they really weren't finished.
Yeah.
And so, don't just jump in. And then as I've gotten older and more in my communication, I've just realized that I don't need to say everything that I think. Like, sometimes if it's, I'll even ask myself the question, do I need to say this? Like, is it something, am I saying it just to try to make myself seem more important? And so I think as I get older, I've learned a little bit more, like, if it's going to add value to the whole group, wait for the pause, write down if I think I'm going to forget my train of thought and forget the point I was going to make, and then wait until it's a good time to insert myself into the conversation.
Yeah, that's a great tip and that's probably a reason I interrupt often is I just am fearful I'm going to forget. So even just having something there to jot down notes to come back to later, that's a great tip. And you also mentioned giving others the opportunity. That really is, we talked about this in previous sessions, but that really is a gift. That's an other-centeredness. And for a lot of people on this planet, one of the sweetest sounds is the sound of their own voice, the sound of them getting to share that idea. And so we want to gift them with that. We want to give them that opportunity.
And I remember there was a time where your keyword that you were trying to implement in your life was just others. You would just say others before it was serving others, and sometimes you could even just have that word playing in your mind, like, I want to be others centered in this communication. And one thing that I've tried to do, and a great tip I would give out when I was training, is try to listen twice as much as you speak. Like in the next meeting you're going to have, even if you're leading the meeting, try to speak, but then listen and invite input in.
Yeah.
It's huge, I think.
That is good. Awesome. Is that it?
That's it.
All right. Well, that was our third communication tip on waiting your turn. Again, we'll put the playlist up. So if you've missed any of the other sessions, you can get those. But thanks so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time on our Joy Hub channel. Bye, guys.
Bye.